firstly, I want to talk about the rental market and how it's looking. We've touched on this for at least the last 2 years, how tough it has been in the inner city market. So, Sydney and Melbourne have really, really done it tough. Rents have been down significantly, but guess what? Whilst we're still getting record numbers of coronavirus cases every single day here in Melbourne and Sydney, it's forgotten because life is going back to normal. Migration is starting up again. The students are starting to be allowed back in, and we're already seeing that quickly translate into some good, strong, solid growth in terms of rents starting to happen. But most importantly, vacancy rates are getting right back down. So I think we're really setting up for a good year. So Jack, come on in.
Hey, James. Nice to meet you again.
Good. Now, you've been studying the numbers.
Yes.
We're having a quick chat about it now. I've got here the latest table. Just give us a quick overview. What's happening in the rental market? Why are you so positive, and why should all of our listeners that are a bit worried, or perhaps cautious investors over the last 24 months, why should they be seeing this as a positive time and be getting really excited about it?
Yes, like the same as last week, we had a review quarterly because now we're in April, so we finished the first quarter of the 2022.
Yep.
Last week, I think we had a review of the property value, obviously the market, the price.
Yep.
This week, I think we should really be review about rental market. Having looked at the report for the first quarter of the 2022, this is the number, 2.6% increase on rental nationally. And then we had a look, Sydney, Melbourne, all the major capital city, almost the positive increase. And
now, Jack, this is, I love data, but this is a bit hard. Should I get my whiteboard and we can put this out?
Go to the next slide, and then we have a very clear view. This is pretty good, right, James?
Right, okay. So these numbers we're seeing here, this is going around the countryside. So this is the quarterly change in rent.
Yep.
So, Melbourne's 2.5%,
Yes.
Sydney is 2.3%,
Yep.
and sort of showing this is what the median rental levels are.
Medium rental price, and this is showing the nationwide is 2.6%, which we're talking about before, just for the quarter. As we know, from the end of the last year, when we're saying like the coronavirus and all the pandemic is almost nearly to the end.
Yep.
And the market, especially for the rental market, it starts like recovering, like we're talking about the end of last week. The last quarter of the last year, 2021, we're seeing the rental 1.9% increase, which is amazing, which is very good. And this is the first quarter, we have an even more good number. This is 2.6%. And also, I want to mention the things. This is medium rental for the major capital city. Let's have a look at Melbourne. This is number for the Melbourne. As one of the biggest city around the country, I would say this is the most affordable price for the renters.
Well, I was pretty much shocked, and I don't know whether it's coming through on the screen properly, but you can sort of see as a bar graph here, and $468 as the median weekly rent, yet our combined capitals is 522. So it's below the average there, yet it's the second biggest Sydney sort of there, and that's miles behind Sydney. I mean, we're talking, $150, $160 per week behind. So is that a permanent thing, or is this sort of where you're seeing the blue sky?
This is definitely what we're saying, like Melbourne is the most popular city around the country, even the world. But we have the rental is kind of attracting more and more people coming here. This is obviously like the big space to be moved up of the rental. For the investor, I think this is a good sign. If now you invest in property in Melbourne, this is like potentially you will receive very good rental in the next couple of years, because compared with the Sydney and the Melbourne, we can see the gap here. But we become, eventually at the least with same size with Sydney and
So, if we're looking at this, we've talked about a lot how important it is to look, not only macro and the big picture, but to really drill in to some of the more finer details. And I think what I'm sort of seeing here is, it's not dissimilar to when I think back in high school and I was an aspiring rugby player, and one of my coaches said, well, you can't get any worse. You've got a really good base to start from. And I think that's what I'm seeing here with Melbourne. There is no way with the size of the state, you know, the amount of population that we've got, the growth, the students, the migration that we know that's coming back, that we should be below the average, and definitely not. I mean, look, we are basically the same as Adelaide. What are we here? We're cheaper than Hobart. We're way cheaper than Sydney. We're cheaper than Brisbane, cheaper than Canberra, cheaper than Darwin, cheaper than Perth. So in fact, are we on the bottom here, or what are we? Basically equal with Adelaide. You know, I mean, $4, what is it? So, you know, I think that's really important, and why some of you out there might be sort of saying, oh, but, you know, I don't know, it's tough. If you are an investor, it might be great to go to some of these other states, and there's many reasons why you might. But let me tell you, that is where I can see the biggest growth. Is it going to happen tomorrow? Maybe, maybe not. Is it going to happen next week? Maybe, maybe not. But I tell you what, in the long run, it is definitely going to catch up. And, you know, these rents aren't going to come down, but we're definitely going to see, you know, where we think, you know, well above average growth in the Melbourne rents.
100%.
All right. What else have you got for us?
I also want to talk about individually the house and the unit for the rental market, because also, as we know, for the rental, basically you have two options. You rent a house or you rent a unit. Let's have a look at the difference for the unit and house. I want to mention those figures, like nationwide, the house increased 2.4% for the first quarter. The unit is 3%. This is what it means. I mean, other things, I have a look, the capital, you know, the capital cities. Nationwide, the house 2.2 and the unit 3.1. So both for the capital city and the nationwide, the unit overtaking the house, the increase rate, which means lots of the migration, overseas students start coming back, because unit is their preferred the place for rental. Yeah. So, and also I want to have a mention, like have a look at Melbourne. The increase percentage is 3.9, it's almost a 4%, which means it's almost a double than the last year. I think last year we had a 1.8% increase for the unit in Melbourne. Now, this quarter, we almost a double. This is equivalent, we have about $16 more per week on the rental. Okay. So again, like I said, important to look behind some of these big picture statistics. And whilst we said, I think it was 2.6 or something for Melbourne, across it, when we break it down, you know, the houses, they're okay, but it's really the apartments that are seeing that big growth. And that's to be expected. You know, now what have we seen over the last 12 months? Sort of a similar trend, haven't we? Yeah. So, you know, here in Melbourne, 4.9% for houses, almost 7% for apartments. So it's really, really good, strong. And I guess for most people, Jack, on the line today, when they think about being an investor, it's typically investing in an apartment. You know, we ran through some of the numbers with Greg last week, and we know that freestanding homes don't tend to get the same return. Yep. And sure, some of them look pretty good. You know, I know there's plenty of regional property investors that have been telling us how amazing it's been the last 2 years. But really, that's where you've got to think for the long term. And that's where we're starting to see things change, you know, as the dream of living regional and never coming to the office is slowly starting to change, and people are realizing we're getting back to normal. Now, I know I threw it in because I'm going to catch you off guard. I threw in one of the other graphs that really gave us the last 5-year trend in terms of the quarterly growth between houses and units. So what exactly is this telling us? And again, why is this so exciting for property investors? I think is the first thing that attract my attention is here, the unit. Since the pandemic, we will definitely, this is actually the truth, the unit market, the rental has been hit terribly. So we're seeing from here down here. However, since last year, 2021, up to now, we'll see the very sharp increase, which is, I think it's almost like an 8 or 10% increase from the rental just in 1 year. So which means, of course, yeah, we've been hated from the COVID. Yep. The city market, the city apartment, like we really, you know, staff, but it only takes 12 months. It's not even 12 months. Some area, even shorter time, will be recovery to the pre-COVID level. This is definitely, I think, because we still got a demand. We still got lots of the demand from the people from the interstate, overseas migration, just because the pandemic, they cannot get into the country. This is not saying they don't want to come in. Physically, they cannot come. Now, everything is open. We allow them to coming back. This is showing the trend. The city market, the unit market will back to the pre-COVID level.
All right. I want to leave you with one last thought as well before I let Jack have the final word. I think I wrote about it a couple of weeks ago. And you know, when we talk about regional Australia and the fact that everyone is moving to the regions, what we often tend to forget, and in line with what Jack started to see happening here, is that really the change in population in the regional areas was about all of those people that were traditionally moved from regional Australia into the capital city. So, you know, think of all the kids that have finished school and want to come for the job opportunities, the work opportunities. They couldn't travel. And to be fair, why would you leave where you're running around free to a lockdown city? You know, we know Melbourne's been terrible the last 2 years. We spent more time inside our homes than ever before. But as that's changing, not only are you seeing external people coming into Melbourne, coming into the capital cities of Sydney and Melbourne, we're also seeing these locals that traditionally over the last 2 years would have come to study, would have come to work, would have come to have fun, haven't. They're going to start coming. So we're really going to start all of a sudden seeing from where we had massive vacancies to all of a sudden no vacancies and rents really starting to grow and people complaining again. And you know what? Property managers actually getting the job done and going home early because they don't have any vacancy.
Yes, yes.
All right, good. Any last words you want to give to our listeners?
I think this is, to be my surprise, I think it's just within the 12 months, the rental, in terms of the rental, everything is performing very well. I mean, we, like you said, James, before, we have the vacancy, lots of the apartment be vacant. Now we have zero vacancy. The people looking to rent, but it can't find a property. This is, to my surprise, I believe this trend will keep continuing, and the rental market will getting better and better. So for those people, investors, they worry about the rental, I don't think they need to worry about it. Everything is back to normal.
Okay, good.
Yeah.